Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here and welcome back to the railway. It's been ages since I last looked at a classic Southern steam loco, so today I'm doing exactly that, and it's a Southern steam loco by Hornby. Today's loco is of course this. It is Hornby's Lord Nelson class. And this is a relatively new tooled model by Hornby. I think the base model at least came out 5 or 6 years ago, 2019 I believe, roughly around that time anyway. And I have actually reviewed one of these Hornby Lord Nelson models before. It was a model from the first batch and yeah, it was a pretty decent model, but there is a reason why I want to review another one of these Lord Nelsons today. In fact, there's a couple of reasons. So like I say, the one I've already done was from the first batch. This is from a newer batch. I don't know about the second batch, but it's certainly a future batch from the one I've reviewed. And so I wanted to try a newer model to see if it's been improved a bit. Now, the original model was fine, there was nothing massively wrong with it, but I did have one major gripe, and that was the weight of the loco was quite disappointing. Now, the Lord Nelson class in real life was an absolute beast. It was one of the Southern Railway's most powerful locomotives. And yet, I didn't think Hornby's model of it was particularly. I found it very light. I wonder if they've been able to address that and maybe add a bit of weight to this. There was a lot of empty space on the old model, so it seemed possible to me that that could have been done. The other reason is a little bit simpler, the livery. Now, the one I've already reviewed was the nicest of the 3 liveries produced initially, I thought. But this one is in the malachite green, which is, I think, my favourite Southern livery. So when I saw this, I thought, you know what, I really want to get one of these. But unfortunately, for the longest time, I didn't. This batch came out, I think, in 2022 to 23, maybe 24, something like that. But the prices were crazy, so the latest RRP for the Lord Nelson is £224.99. But more recently, at Model Railways Direct, I managed to find this one for £123.74 brand new. And I believe that is less than I paid for the Lord Nelson from the first batch. So at that price, I thought it's going to be rude if I don't do this. So Lord Nelson class, is it worth the money? Is it improved slightly over the previous version? And is it a model that is worth picking up, particularly in this malachite green livery? If I can find any brand new ones, I will include an affiliate link down in the description. But for now, let's take a look at this and let's see what this is like. So the other big difference between this and the Lord Nelson I've already got, besides the livery of course, is the smoke deflectors. This loco's got the smoke deflectors. My older Lord Nelson didn't have them, which I liked. I thought that was quite odd for a Lord Nelson. But of course the classic Lord Nelson look is with the smoke deflectors. So when you take into account the detail variations like that and the difference in livery, I would say this looks like an entirely different loco from the Lord Nelson I've already got, which is another good reason to look at one of these. So anyway, let me show you the end of the box. So the version I've got is R3862. It is the Southern Railway Lord Nelson class. It's Martin Frobisher and it's number 864, and this is DCC ready, and we'll talk more about chipping these later on. Right, back of the box then, in case you didn't believe me when I said that these were absolute beasts, 7p. Now, was it the Princess Royal class that was classified 7p? Well, here we've got a 460 that is a 7p, incredibly powerful. Brief bit of history in the middle of the box, feel free to pause and read that if you'd like to. And then we've got Hornby's drawings on the end of the box, which are dated, so it would figure that the model was then released in about 2019. Right, let's take a look at this then. Been ages since I've looked at a brand new Lord Nelson. Let's see if that livery looks like it does on the box. Here we go. Ooh, yes, it's a much kind of brighter livery, I would say, than the, is it an olive green that I've already got? Yeah, the lining's brighter, it's a richer green. Yeah, I really do like this livery on a Southern loco. So very excited to be adding a Lord Nelson in this livery to my fleet. Right, let's pull this out. Can I get a sense of the weight? Yeah, it's hard to get a sense while it's in the packaging. Yeah, it doesn't feel dreadfully light at the moment, but I won't know until I've got it out. Right, instructions then, let's have a look. Lord Nelson class, 460 steam locomotive and tender. So, generic information on the front. Inside, we've got a bit about lubrication. It's your standard job, axle boxes and crank pins. There is a lot of accessories you can fit to this. Looks like we've got cylinder drain cocks, various steps, pipe work for the buffer beam, and also a front coupling. There's probably more. We'll have a look in a moment. Assembly and disassembly, connecting, disconnecting the tender. This is how to remove the body from both the loco and the tender, and the DCC socket is in the tender, and by the looks of this diagram it's an 8-pin, so that's what you need if you want to chip one of these. There's also a close coupling option here as well if you want to push the loco and tender a little bit closer together. Then we've got a bit about brake rods. Looks as though we've got those for both the loco and the tender. The tender, of course, being a bogie tender, which is another reason I like the Lord Nelson class. Absolutely colossal tenders, which obviously greatly improve the range of these locos. Right, yeah, we've got accessories in the top, so we'll start with that. And these appear to be painted, which is good to see. So yeah, quite a hefty detail bag really. We've got the brake rigging, we have got a NEM coupling and a NEM pocket for the front end of the loco. We've got the painted pipework, quite complex parts those, and yeah, buffer beam detailing if you want to add it. So yeah, you can detail the loco up if you like. Right, let's clap eyes on this livery then. I think the original Lord Nelson could have been better in terms of paintwork. Some of the gold paint, if I remember correctly, wasn't great quality for the sort of builder's plates and that sort of thing. Hopefully this will be a lot better being a newer release. Here we go. The finish. Oh yes. Oh, is the camera? Yeah, I always wonder if the camera is going to do this justice, and I think that's because the screen I'm looking through isn't great for colour, but then when I edit the videos and watch them back I notice the colours do kind of look as they do to my eyes. So hopefully the camera does this justice. Yeah, it's a really rich shade. It's got a bit of a gleam on the boiler as well, suggesting a satin finish. Yeah, that looks lovely. Right, lifting up. Yeah, you know, it doesn't feel as light as I remember my older Lord Nelson feeling, but it equally doesn't feel dreadfully heavy. So I guess I'll pop them onto the scales in just a second and see if this is going to beat the old one. It might do, if for no other reason than the additional smoke deflectors, but we'll see. Anyway, wow. Yeah, this livery is so much nicer than the one I've already got, which I'm sure is an opinion that won't be shared by everybody. I'm sure plenty will prefer the subtler livery, but for me, yeah, I really dig this. That looks great, especially with the wheels. Yeah, it's just a bit brighter. I love that. And there's some really, really good detailing as well, which we'll take a look at in just a second. For now though, let's have a bit of background on the real Lord Nelson class, and then I guess we'll do the weigh-in, see if Hornby managed to make this one any heavier. All right, let's go. The Southern Railway Lord Nelson class was introduced in 1926 when the first of 16 locomotives was built to the design of Richard Mansell. Initially they were intended for use on continental boat trains between London and Dover, but eventually they were used for express passenger work. At the time they were the largest and most powerful in a long line of Southern Region 460 locomotives, and they boasted a tractive effort of 149 kilonewtons. They were truly mighty engines, running on 4 cylinders and a boiler pressure of 220 psi, and Mansell borrowed elements from other railways' successful steam locomotives for this design. Nevertheless, to start with, things did not go perfectly with the Lord Nelsons. While plenty of crews got on fine with the class, others found it no better than the smaller and lighter locomotives that it was supposed to replace, and there were plenty of reports of poor steaming. Mansell trialled many solutions, such as smaller driving wheels to increase the torque, larger, heavier boilers, but this didn't help. It was eventually Oliver Bulleid who solved the problems by fitting larger diameter chimneys and multiple blast pipes, which immediately brought about massive improvements. A victory for Bulleid. The class was then very successful right until the end of steam in the 1960s. Of 16 produced, only one has been preserved, and that's the first of the class, number 850, Lord Nelson. So I would have said that the new model is slightly heavier than the old one, but then again, obviously I'm not a set of scales. Don't know if I've ever revealed that about myself before, but it's true, I'm not. So let's allow the more objective scales to be the judge. So old model first, does that one way, with the tender of course. 311 grams, it seems fairly settled on that. So 311 grams to beat. I think this feels a bit heavier than that. Go on though. Oh wow, okay. 1 gram. So yeah, I guess that would account for the smoke deflectors, maybe possibly a slightly different tender. Ultimately then, it doesn't seem as though it is any heavier, which is odd because it did feel a bit heavier, but I think even I would struggle to notice the difference of 1 gram. So no, it's no heavier, which is a pity. You know, I'll tell you how that compares with other locos later on. Detail-wise, I'm actually very impressed by this because there's a lot of variations in this tooling, which I'm only kind of learning about now. So obviously it's got the smoke deflectors, as I've already talked about. It's also got a completely different tender as per this variation. More on that later on. It's got a speedo, well, just about. It almost didn't have the speedo, which isn't fitted properly, although there is glue on the part, so I think it was just fitted at the factory and then it's come off in transit. I don't think there's a massive quality issue with this model, but I have noticed just a small number of parts not quite fitted right or a bit loose. So yeah, on the whole, I would say I have seen better quality models than this. And of course, we've got the much larger bullied chimney as well. And speaking of the bullied chimney, it's so large that I can do this demonstration. Here you go. Inserting a screwdriver, revealing that yes, the smoke box at least is completely hollow, which kind of explains why this model is so light. Most manufacturers will fill a smoke box or a boiler with weight to improve the loco's traction. And yes, this is over the front bogie, but I can put weight on this without unbalancing the loco. So yeah, I feel like they could have added quite a lot more weight to this loco. Add in the fact that the body and also the running plate here is all plastic as well. It's not surprising that this is on the light side. Now obviously I paid just £123 for mine, so I am not complaining at all. At that price, it's perfectly reasonable. But should Hornby really be trying to sell a model like this that is so plasticky for over £220, which would be about £190 at the retailers with a more typical discount? I think that's quite expensive for such a plasticky model, and 312 grams, that's the same as the Q1, a much smaller 060. How is this loco no heavier than that? And I can go a step further. Even Rapido's 15XX tank engine, which doesn't have a massive tender attached to it, is significantly heavier than the Lord Nelson. So yeah, weight is still lacking on this model, unfortunately. But I'm very glad that folks have decided to wait this one out. I'm glad folks haven't been paying £190 because almost the entire range of Lord Nelsons is now massively discounted. So well done folks. Don't pay over the odds for models unless they're worth it. But in some ways this model really is worth it. Let's talk about the decoration. I think the finish is definitely better than on the first batch. Much shinier looking, a little bit more premium. I think that adds some value. The quality of the paint is excellent as well. The banding on the boiler, all of this is great. It's very complex, to be honest with you. We've got lining on the smoke deflectors, lining across the running plate. The splashers are lined as well. And the side of the cab, as usual, is very, very detailed. We've also got the Sir Martin Frobisher nameplate here, which is a metal part, but it's not properly etched. So it looks as though we've just got the sort of shape of the plate that's made of metal, and then the text has just been printed onto it. It's not as good as when the text actually stands out because it's been properly etched in. I'm just not sure why Hornby don't go the whole hog and make proper etched nameplates. These don't look very good, do they? And then we've got the number on the side of the cab, which is quite nicely painted, as you can see. And we've got no builder's plate here or number plate, so whether they've improved the paint on those, I don't know. And then the front buffer beam, as you can see, this is painted red, and it's also got the running number on there. Let's talk details then. So we've got the wheels, which are painted green, and the axles are covered as per usual from Hornby. These look fantastic. The coupling rods and valve gear, all of this looks excellent, made of metal of course, and we'll talk more about that later on when that's up and running. Buffer beam wise, this is how they look straight from the factory. So we've got the turned metal buffers, which are sprung. Yep, all buffers on the model are sprung. We've also got the vacuum pipe pre-fitted and also some lamp brackets on the buffer beam. All of that looks great. Here's a look at the smoke box door, which has the separate handrail on there and also more lamp brackets and such too. The running plate has some separately fitted details on it, which is quite impressive, although there is no detail between the frames. It's quite hard to get eyes between the frames really, so it doesn't matter that much, but perhaps some painted valve gear or the cylinders represented in there would have just been able to catch the eye and been an impressive spectacle. Sadly, that was not to be though. We've got some very complex pipework along the boiler as well, which is separately fitted. Ditto around the smoke box, and the quality of the paint on these parts is marvellous. This looks just like copper, which is great. The same can't really be said for the reverser rod, which is a very flimsy plastic part, and it just looks like plastic as opposed to metal. So yeah, it's a shame that part wasn't a metal piece, but it is tucked away just enough so that its flimsiness shouldn't become a massive problem. We've also got more of that good quality looking pipework beneath the cab. It is just plastic, but it's a good choice of paint, I would say. We've also got separate green pipework, which has been painted and fitted along the boiler and firebox, and also wire separately fitted handrails as well, which are particularly fine on this loco. I think that looks brilliant. The fit of the chimney is very good. We can see some glue around it, unfortunately, but it's not too much of a bodge job. I've certainly seen worse. And also the fit of the dome, this is a separate part, it doesn't seem as though it's been moulded in. Yeah, that's pretty good. There's a tiny gap, but again, we've seen much, much worse. Another pleasant surprise would be the safety valves. These are turned metal parts, and as a result, the finish on these is real quality. Yeah, that looks fantastic. For obvious reasons, this whistle is just plastic, although again, it's quite nicely moulded, and the quality of the paint is certainly not too bad. Cab-wise, we've got glazed windows with the window frames picked out. We've got wire handrails around the side of the cab, which again seem particularly fine on this loco. We've got a hinged tender fall plate with a decent texture on it, and of course a very, very detailed cab. So we've got multiple separately fitted parts with some great relief on them, especially the regulator there, that looks good, but lots of the other valves and taps and controls and such, these all stand out brilliantly. The gauges have been painted as well. That's always a good sign that you're looking at a quality cab. Yeah, really well done. Although there is no cab lighting on this one, so no firebox flicker. Again, that's fine. It's a kind of frivolous feature, but £224.99. Yeah, I think when a model can cost up to that much, it shouldn't be missing features like that. Minor as it is, I suppose. Okay, so this tender is very different from the other one. It's got a totally different profile, as you can see, which I kind of like, to be honest with you. It's got the cab doors pre-fitted, it's got wire handrails, which is really impressive. Obviously, this is a bogie tender, which is quite unusual. There can't be that many models out there that have this. And yet the bogies are very nicely detailed. It looks like the springs are separate parts. Whether they actually are or not, I'm not sure. They might just be moulded, but they look fantastic. And we've got quality metal wheels with pickups, which we'll talk about in a bit. We've got some detail around the front of the tender with separately fitted controls, and just a small coal load this time, which is removable. As you can see, it moves around here, and the front end of the coal load pokes through the hatch, which is a nice touch. Very nice and realistic. And then around the back, we've got separately fitted lamp brackets and steps, which are very straightly fitted with no visible glue. The steps are very strange indeed. They kind of follow the profile of the buffer beams. I thought to start with these had been smashed in transit, but they haven't. They're supposed to be that way. I don't think I've seen that before, or at least noticed it before. Then we've got a similarly detailed buffer beam with more sprung buffers and the coupling hook. I don't think there was any couplings for that hook though, which is a shame. Although we do have the NEM tension lock, which is fitted to the bogie, and it's also slightly sprung in addition to being fitted to the pivoted bogie, which is cool. And I wasn't expecting to find a pocket on the front of the loco because there was one in the accessories bag, but there is one on the front. So yeah, I don't know why they included one in the accessories bag. Obviously then you can fit that NEM coupling to the front. All you've got to do is put the coupling itself into that pocket and you're done. So yeah, as you can see, a beautifully painted loco. It's got some great details. It's certainly got everything it needs, in my opinion. Yes, it doesn't have the lighting in the firebox, but like I say, that's kind of a frill that we don't actually need in order to make the model look decent. I do think that and the lightweight of the model calls the price into question, and the plastic construction does negatively affect the quality, I think. But other than that, there isn't a major issue with the quality. One or two parts could have been glued a bit better, I think. But other than that, yeah, it's an absolutely fine model. And for £123, that's a cracking price in this day and age. So if you fancy one of these, now's a good time to get one while they're still at such good prices. And affiliate links in the description if you're interested. But that's only visually. Obviously, I've not seen the way this one runs yet. I don't remember there being a major performance issue with my old Lord Nelson class, but let's look at this one and see if that's still the case. So there she is down onto the track, looking magnificent, Hornby's Lord Nelson class. And I've already filmed the first run and the running in, and usually I wouldn't tell you anything about those until you can see them for yourself. But in this case, I am going to briefly describe what happened because I think it's important for what follows. So when I came to test this thing, something wasn't quite right. It wasn't the worst runner in the world, but it was struggling. It was clearly underpowered, it couldn't really crawl, it looked as though it was binding, and I hoped that running in would fix this. But running in didn't fix it. It was still running badly after running in. But then when I took this apart to look at the mechanism, I noticed a couple of things that weren't quite right in terms of the way the loco had been put together. And when I fixed those things, the performance was absolutely spot on. So I'm going to point those out to you as we go. And if you've got a Lord Nelson that has similar issues, you might be able to solve them in the same way that I did. But anyway, first of all, pickups, absolutely fantastic. Obviously, we've got 8 wheels on this tender and all of them pick up, fantastic. And the loco driving wheels also have wiper pickups on them as well. So that's 7 pickups per rail. That's one of the best you can get in a steam locomotive with a tender. So yeah, reliability not going to be an issue. Here's the drawbar, which is pretty typical for Hornby locos not designed within the last couple of years. So it's not quite as neat and tidy as the push together style, but it's nice and robust, it's screwed in place, although we do have the wires going between the two. But yeah, it's pretty standard. The base keeper plate is screwed on with 4 screws, I think it was, and removing these screws reveals that the base is fully removable. Say it with me. So you can clean the pickups, easy access for serviceability. That's really good. Of course, knowing Hornby, we've got the proper separate bearings on the driving axles. That's fantastic. And this is a simple, uncomplicated mechanism with just a single driven axle. Now, when I refitted the base keeper plate, I noticed these sanding pipes trapped between the wheels and the brakes. Now, it could have just been that I did that when I put it back on because I didn't see this before I took the base off. But I think that might have been the issue. If those sanding pipes were pushing against the wheels, that could have caused the problems. So I've been able to move those out of the way. And that could be the reason why there was an issue, but there's another issue that I found later on, which I'll talk about. Anyway, to remove the body, it's just 2 screws, front and back. You don't have to remove the front bogie or anything, or you don't even have to use the hole in the front bogie. You can just move it to one side, which I did. And with both of those screws out, you're free to remove the body. Now, yeah, this is a kind of slim looking chassis. There's not a lot of meat on it, so to speak. And as you can see, the front of the chassis where the smoke box would be is completely empty. And inside the body, there's no weight either. So yeah, they've really not packed this body full of weight, which I think they ought to have done given how expensive this was. We do, however, have a 5-pole motor though, which is a good substantial one, and it has not 1 but 2 flywheels fitted to it. So again, that's really, really good. Here's where the other issue I noticed comes into play though. Look at this, we've got a wire which is badly managed. It shouldn't be positioned like this, and very clearly this is touching the flywheel, and quite possibly it would have been pushed up against the flywheel while the body was fitted. So I readjusted those wires just to make sure they were not touching the flywheel anymore, Again, whether this is the thing that fixed the issue or whether it was the sanding pipes, I'm not too sure. But I fixed both and the performance is really, really good now. So yeah, a few issues with the way this loco was built now. One or two is fine, you know, one or two can just be chance. But I forget how many we're up to now. 4 or 5 minor build quality issues, which have started to affect things more than a little bit now. So few concerns about the quality of this one. Anyway, no fancy features in this loco, no lighting or anything like that. It's just a motor and a gear train, and that's pretty much it. So removing the tender body to get access to the DCC socket is a bit of a pain with this one. It's 2 screws just like the loco was. The front one's easy to get to, but the back one is underneath the rear bogie of the tender, and for some reason they've not put a hole in that bogie to make accessing the screw easier. So you've actually got to remove the bogie to do this. It's not a big deal, but I just feel like, is that really necessary? So what I did was I removed the bogie, I removed the screw from beneath it, then I put the bogie back on, because obviously those pickup wires are fragile, and if you're dragging the bogie around with the wires, yeah, that's going to damage the wires. So I put it back on just so that the wires wouldn't be strained. Inside we've got the 8-pin DCC socket, which is what it is, that's fair enough, but no pre-fitted speaker. Now, yeah, this doesn't need to have a pre-fitted speaker, but again, really, Hornby, you want people to pay £224.99 to you for a loco that doesn't have any provision for sound and lights. Yeah, I feel like a 20p speaker would not have been too much to pre-fit here to make sound fitting much easier. But yeah, there we have it. I'm not saying it should have the speaker, but I think it should be cheaper given that it doesn't have it. Anyway, the gauging was absolutely fine. That came in at between 14.3 and 14.4 back to back, which is more or less bang on the standard. So the mechanism on the whole is very, very good. Perfectly good quality, every feature that I'd want to see. Few issues with the build quality that spoilt performance, and someone else could have seen that performance and said this is not adequate, I'm sending this back, when actually there's not a lot wrong with the loco, just a few components not quite put together properly. But anyway, speaking of performance, let me jump back in time and let me show you how that went. Alright, so obviously this will be her first ever run. At this point she hasn't run in yet, so obviously I will let her run in before I draw any conclusions on the performance. But what is she like straight out of the box? Does she run? Here we go. Forwards direction, little bit of power. Here goes. Wow. That's 50%. I thought it was starting as a marvellous crawler, but it's struggling. That's 50%. Well, that's not great, is it? Now, this might improve and warm up, and it is doing. But there's not much torque there, is there? All right. Well, perhaps this has just been in its box for a year or two. Perhaps it just needs to wake up. Yeah, it is getting better, actually. Let's turn it up a little bit on the controller, see what we can do. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Ugh, I thought for a moment this was going to have a faulty motor. And I don't know, that was weird the way it started, but it seems to be alright now, or getting there. So let me run by at half power for you, and we'll just see whether the speed's a bit more sensible now. Yeah, it is actually. Okay, that's alright. This is more like what I remember my other Lord Nelson running like, and in reverse. Okay, so yeah, I would say this definitely needs running in then, because already I'm seeing big improvements. Let's have a look and see if the torque's any better now. I think realistically I'd be better to do this after running in, and I will do. But yeah, at the moment that's struggling. Well, sort of. Struggles at one part of the rotation, doesn't it? And then stops. So yeah, okay, fair enough. So interesting, there's definitely some room for improvement, I would say, on the performance. I wonder what the crawl's like straight out of the box. I mean, it sort of did one a minute ago, but it wasn't supposed to be doing one. So let's see, here we go. Turning up. Wow. So it's pretty smooth and very, very slow. Yeah, that's impressive. Smooth acceleration. Ooh. No, seems to be binding in places, doesn't it? Yeah. On this side, when the crank pins reach the top, things seem to lock up a little bit, don't they? Let's try that again. There we are. So things are pretty slow there. Maybe a bit faster. Back it up. Yeah. So when the crank pins get to about 11 o'clock, they hit a tight spot, don't they? Just checking the crank pins tight on that side. Other side. Yeah, the crank pins are tight. Okay, so not a perfect performer then. But like I said a minute ago, this hasn't run in yet, and by the looks of it, it desperately needs to. So I'll run this in, hopefully after 30 minutes in each direction, this will be a much better runner. But let's see, here we go, 50%, off she goes. Okay, let's see how she gets on around the curves. I would say she's looking a bit more lively now. Second radius. Okay, well that's good at least. Doesn't seem to be much affected by curves, which is good. Okay, so yeah, at these higher speeds, she's perfectly normal. I would say that's a nice smooth performance. Not slowing down on curves is a big plus as well. At the slower speeds at the moment, things don't seem to be adjusted quite right. I don't know if there's perhaps a quartering issue, some sort of other issue, but yeah, the wheels do seem to be binding in certain parts of the rotation. So either this is an issue that will go away with running in, fingers crossed it will do, or this is a fundamental issue with the loco that is not going to go away. At the moment, it could go either way, I'm not too sure. So the only thing for it is to keep this thing running. I'll switch direction after half an hour, then we'll come back, we'll do these tests again, and hopefully, with a bit of luck, things will have improved. Otherwise, I guess it's not so bad that it's unusable, but it seems a shame that the motor and mechanism are capable of doing a great crawl in this thing, but they're being prevented from doing that, either by a quartering issue or by whatever's binding. So yeah, I'll keep this running. I'll see you in just a moment, and we'll test the pulling power as well. Okay, I'll be back. All right, folks, I am back, and as you may know, running in did not fix those issues, which I thought was bad news. But then, of course, I did the mechanism section. I took this apart. I found those sanding pipes touching the wheels. I found the wires touching the flywheel, fixed those issues, and now this loco is marvellous. In fact, what I'll do is I'll run by at a slowish speed and allow you to notice that the wheel set is not jamming up anymore. Look at that. On analog too. It's slowing down. Why? There we go. But yeah, it's clearly not jamming up as it was, which is great to see. I suspect, I've not tried this yet, but I suspect the torque is going to be better now that there's less friction. Oh yeah, look at that. That's 10 times better. It was slowing down to almost nothing before. Yeah, it's faster as well. Let me show you 50% speed. It's quicker. There we go. And now that we don't have wires zapping the energy out of the flywheels prematurely, we do actually have a bit of a flywheel action too. So 50% cut. Yep, you can see it's not massive, but the loco doesn't just stop dead. It continues for just a half a second or so after cutting power, which is good. Right, what's the crawl like? This has been running and adjusted. So let's see what this is like now. Here we go. Wow. I mean, that is stunning. It's so smooth as well at that speed. So yeah, amazing. Just shows what a good quality motor can do. And my goodness, those other locos that struggle so much to crawl are really shown up by this thing, aren't they? And yes, now it can do a smooth acceleration, which is great to see. So yeah, it's a spot-on performer now. I was quite concerned when I saw the way this ran before. It was at odds with how my other Lord Nelson ran, and I would have been really sad if I couldn't have fixed it, because the other Lord Nelson I don't think looks quite as nice as this, with its smoke deflectors and its brighter livery. So I would have been very sad if this was the one that didn't run as well, despite looking better. But yeah, it's fine now. It's really, really good. The tractive effort, unsurprisingly, isn't that great. It's about the same as a Q1, so it's not terrible. It'll handle a decent number of coaches, but it would have been massively better had the loco been 100 or so grams heavier. So 0.32 newtons, like I say, that's the same as the Q1. Should be about 21 coaches on straight and level track. I've not set up 21 coaches, I've set up 7 coaches, which I think is more sensible, and I'll deem this loco adequate if she can haul those. I think 7's quite reasonable, up a bit of an incline, like what I've got. So let's back up and let's test those couplings. So this is an oldish Hornby coach, so it doesn't quite match in terms of couplings, but I don't remember there being an issue with the Lord Nelson's couplings before, so I think I could guarantee they're okay, although something tells me that's not quite gone well. No, it didn't. Let's have a quick look. On the coupling hook's okay, yeah, seem about right. There we go. So I would say there was a bit of an issue there. Let me just get a piece of rolling stock, oh for goodness sake, which has a matching coupling, just to verify that it's the coach and not the Lord Nelson. Okay, random Bachmann wagon, not suitable. I suppose it's quite suitable actually in that green. It's a good fit actually, but it was just random, and Bachmann are pretty precise when it comes to couplings, so, oh yeah. Okay, so it is just the coaches I was testing then, so that's fine. The coupling, absolutely perfect. So with that, let's bring the coaches back, push those together. All right, well, I think now that they're coupled, that'll be okay. And my goodness, does she match those coaches nicely. Oh, that's such a good look. I wish I could have seen Southern trains looking like this back in Bullitt's day. But anyway, here we go, forwards direction. It's an express passenger locomotive, so I think I will go for 50. Let's make this quite a quick one. There we go. And for now, she's hauling these coaches just perfectly. And let me take that wagon out of there. And then on the middle line, I've got my other Lord Nelson locomotive, which is still absolutely beautiful, don't get me wrong. You know, I do like this livery very much, and I remember thinking how handsome this looked. And yeah, there's something to be said about how understated this looks in the slightly, I don't know, is it lighter or darker? I'm not very good with colour, but it's certainly a different green. It's similarly lined, so I wouldn't say this is a less complex livery, although it doesn't have the lined smoke deflectors, which add to the complex look of the current one I'm looking at. Yeah, so it's just different. It's just very different, and variety is good in my view. So yeah, it's nice to have that, and she's just got a smaller train of coaches. Not quite such a good match on colour though. Really like today's. And today's theme is going to be Southern Railway 460s, so see which others you can spot in the sidings. Here's one. Will I give this one away? I won't give this one away. If you can guess what this is, drop a comment, let me know. And if you spot an odd one out, also see who can get it first in the comments. Alright, let's see that Lord Nelson with 7 coaches. Alright, and there is a big difference now seeing this running unhindered. Yeah, it's quicker, it seems a little bit smoother. It didn't slow down on the curves every time before, but I did catch it on camera slowing down once or twice. So yeah, whatever I've done to it, I'm not sure which fix it was that did it. It's not very scientific of me, sorry about that, but whatever it was, this thing is perfect now. And what a beautiful runner this is. So, you know, I've identified a few issues with the model, a few things that could have been improved. But on the whole, it's a decent model. It looks lovely, it's got all the details it needs without being ridiculously fancy. It's got a mechanism that's built to last and good quality, and the performance, at least now, is just spot on. Really, really good. So I think now that these are so heavily reduced, there's nothing really stopping me from recommending this to you. Before it would have been the price, I would have said, yeah, it's lovely, but at £190, it's just too much for what this is. But now it isn't. Now at £123 something, yeah, it's worth every penny. So yeah, it's a loco that's become a little bit obscure. It's not one that gets talked about very often. It was released 5 or 6 years ago and the hype has died. But these locos are back, they're still around. There's new liveries that have come out over the past few years, and now the price is very, very good indeed. So don't forget about this loco and pick yourself up a bargain. Let's have some ratings then for Hornby's very beautiful Lord Nelson class, and seeing this loco in the malachite green has really changed my thoughts on it. I think this loco looks far more beautiful in this livery than it did in the more toned down livery. Yeah, I love this thing. So the paint job is fantastic. It has got some beautiful details, tiny little separate parts. The cab interior is very good indeed. And because it's a relatively new tooled model, all of the moulding is nice and crisp. On the downside though, it's missing a few things, and some things could have been done a little bit better. We've got no detail between the frames. In fact, instead there's a visible screw. We've seen other models do better there. No firebox lighting in the cab, that's a shame. No screw link couplings included for the buffer beams. Again, that's a premium feature that you'd expect at this price. We do have metal nameplates, but they're not properly etched ones, and they're not as effective as they would be if they were. That's not so great. And then we've got some parts that are very clearly plastic, and in some places this works well. The copper coloured pipework looks absolutely wonderful, but the plastic reverser kind of looks like a plastic part with some grainy metallic paint on it. Not so great. So few things that do drag this down. Otherwise though, it's a very, very nicely detailed model. Performance is one of the biggest reliefs I've had for ages. When I first tested this loco, it was not good. I was even thinking about whether I should keep this loco or not. So it was okay at the higher speeds, but it was obviously struggling more than I would expect. At the slower speeds, it was binding up at certain parts of the rotation and struggling to move itself. This is not my experience of the Lord Nelson class in the past. However, since taking this apart, I noticed a few things: the wire touching the flywheels and also the little sanding pipes touching the wheels. I don't know which of those solved the issue, but I fixed both of them, and now this loco is a 5-star performer. It crawls beautifully, it's much less laboured now, it seems to run freely. Absolutely fantastic. So, performance, brilliant. Build quality, we'll get onto later on. That is letting this loco down. So if you see similar problems with your Lord Nelson class, don't just live with it. Take the thing apart, do what I did, and you'll relieve a lot of stress on the motor. Pulling power then, yeah, this is not great. 21 coaches doesn't seem like a whole lot for the Lord Nelson class, especially when you consider this is just on straight and level track. If you start introducing curves and gradients, it's going to be significantly less than that. So the tractive effort was 0.32 newtons, which is only about the same as the Q1, a much smaller locomotive. So a little bit more weight would definitely have served this loco well. The mechanism though, I cannot fault. I've given it 5-star. It's a brilliant mechanism. It's pretty darn serviceable, proper bearings on the driving axles, single axle drive, not too over-engineered, easy to get the body off, 5-pole motor, 2 flywheels, and it works really, really well. The quality then is possibly the weakest area of this model. Aspects of it are really good. Most separate parts are glued on without any visible glue, and the decoration is very well applied. I didn't see any hiccups in the decoration, but there are a few issues with the way this model was built. First of all, there was a couple of detail parts which weren't attached properly. The speedometer assembly was loose, and I noticed one of the valves on the side of the boiler was loose as well. There's a few things on the inside that weren't quite right either, i.e. we've got wires touching the flywheel, that's a big no-no, and sanding pipes trapped between the brakes and the wheels. Again, not ideal. We've also got the plastic construction of the body, which limits the weight of the loco, and also the body hadn't really been filled with weight either, which is a good option for locos that have just a plastic body. So for me, this loco needed either a die-cast running plate at the very least, or some weight packed into the boiler around the motor and in front of it, then this would have been a lot better. Because 312 grams for a Lord Nelson class is insane. Like I say, I've got tank engines heavier than that, and the Lord Nelson was such a big and powerful beast. 312 grams seems way below what you'd expect. So yeah, keep that in mind. And that brings us on to the value for money then. So the RRP is insane now, £224.99. Very, very poor value indeed. 10% down from that, well 15% down from that would be about £190. Yeah, considering what other locos are out there, that is just crazy. For that money, I would expect a bit more metal on board, a bit of a weightier model for sure. I'd want the pre-fitted speaker, I'd want the lights, I'd want better quality nameplates, I'd want screw-link couplings provided, I'd want more metal details and some detail between the frames. Yeah, this loco is not worth that, unfortunately. It's quite clear that this has been relatively cheaply produced, which is fine. I don't think this loco is too cheap. I don't think it looks bad on a layout or anything, but it does need to be priced accordingly. And I think on this occasion, we customers have done a really good job of ensuring that's the case. Almost every Lord Nelson now has been heavily reduced. I managed to pick this one up for £123.74, which is over £100 off the RRP. At that price, this model is worth every penny. That is a marvellous price for this loco, and it's well worth it. So yes, I can say go forth and buy a Lord Nelson now that they're at this price, and well done for voting with your wallet. But only when a model doesn't deliver what it should. There are models out there that do have the details and features and the quality to justify 200 odd pounds. In my view, that isn't this loco, but either way. Overall, that is 7.58 out of 10, or a grade of C. So yeah, pretty good, I would say. Not the greatest in the world, but at the right price, it's a loco I could perfectly happily recommend to you. And into the logbook it goes, where it's 13th place, just above the Hornby Ruston 48DS and below Hornby's J36. So there you have it then, folks. That was my look at the, well, possibly the latest batch, at least not the first batch of Hornby Lord Nelson locos, and I've really enjoyed this one. I think mainly because of the way it runs now, and also because of the livery. You know, I like my Southern Blacks, I think that looks very smart, but this is something else, isn't it? I think this is probably my favourite Southern livery. And how great this looks in this livery as well. I mean, Hornby, to give them credit, do a fantastic job of a loco like this, especially an express passenger loco. And it makes me wish we could see Hornby do more Southern locos. They don't seem to announce that many. I mean, they've announced one in TT now, but not in 00 for a while. So yeah, what would you like to see Hornby produce in 00, Southern-wise? If you've got any thoughts on that, please do comment down below. But I think for now, I will leave this one here. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this one. Have you got a Hornby Lord Nelson? Is it this one, or is it a different one? And what do you think? Have you noticed any more detail variations between these models? Again, all of this and more, feel free to let me know. I love reading your comments. But for now, we will leave it there. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. All right, cheers folks. You take care.